Hi, everyone. My name is Eugene. I'm the managing partner at National Strategic Group. We're a strategy and marketing company serving the vision industry. I've decided to create a video series to help ECPs during this difficult time. We're hearing a lot of questions about how do I market during this time? And really, the goals that marketing really has for us are changing quite a bit. We've gone from trying to aggressively grow practices to helping practices properly connect, engage, and most importantly, communicate with their patients. And one thing that's certain in a time of crisis like this, people are looking for answers. And hopefully, this video series will help you understand what's going on. And if you have extra time, how you should be leveraging it and what's working in areas on both the patient communication side and the demand generation side right now. So as you can see from my screen, my team specializes in a wide variety of marketing levers. So one thing we love to understand is data. And in order to help you understand how to communicate right now and how to really best serve your audience, I'd like to share a little bit about how consumers are behaving in today's environment. So it's no surprise. When we're forced to stay home, we're glued to our devices. That's almost 3 more hours a day that we're spending in front of our digital screens over the course of the last few weeks. And what are we doing? Well, I'm sure this is not really a surprise to many of you. We are on the top social media platform in the world, a lot more. And what's interesting about this statistic is that there's about 15% more content being produced, but there's 22% more content being consumed, which means that people are consuming all of the new content and then some. Another way to look at this is that at the same time, if you look at it from the advertiser side, the cost to reach people during this season has dropped dramatically. And as major advertisers pull out of ads today and try to figure out how to regroup, the price to reach consumers in today's environment has dramatically lowered. Now, you can think about the usual suspects taking advantage of these factors. They're already utilizing that opportunity, but that doesn't mean you're too late. But here are a few examples of ads that my intelligence team has scoured up. Here's Zenny talking about, additional screen time that people are utilizing and how to combat that. 1-800 Contacts has shifted all of their creative to people being at home rather than people being out and about. And even some of the smaller players are just trying to write relevant copy and sell your patients things. So, this copy talks about how you might be looking to escape the news, and here's some positive things, or here's some convenience about getting stuff shipped to your house for free. So, there are some small players trying to get into this on this turf, but this hasn't bypassed you. And quite honestly, for a while now, I don't think that major big retailers are going to be back in the advertising game at the same intensity as they were before this season started. Now, one marketing tool that most of your competitors don't have is the email list. And that is good news because people are who are using it right now are getting impressive results. Now, this is just from our clients alone, but this is data that's very reliable and very consistent with what's going on in the marketplace, is that email campaigns that we're sending are getting dramatically higher open rates and also dramatically higher click-through rates. Bottom line is that consumers have a lot more time. They're spending a lot more time in front of their screens. And if you want to reach them during this difficult time, it's cheaper and more effective to reach them digitally. Now, the question is, what do you say? And I will get to that in some future video series components, is exactly what to say, how to frame your messaging, how to position yourself. But right now, I just want to give you a few more insights on what's going on. So one interesting point is that socially, we've totally shifted. Authenticity is kind of the new code word for business, with celebrities and talk show hosts doing things from their house. Influencers are doing Instagram story takeovers. Employers and employees are posting fun pictures of people's work from home spaces. We're also making a big shift towards local businesses. Many of the top engaging posts on social media are talking about shop local, save local companies, and it's even driving us to be more community centric in a time that we can't physically be with our communities. So what I think is really worth pointing out is that over the last, 6 weeks or so, we've basically redefined our social norms to be included, to have screen-based authentic interactions as the thing that we consider now actual socialization. And we're deriving a lot of satisfaction from things like virtual happy hours and virtual conversations with friends, while things like work, school, and some appointments are and life's necessities are taking a similar sort of format. And this is where, if you can offer virtual services, there's certainly an opportunity to review how you can serve pre-sale and triage patient needs via the phone or via video on a phone. Personally, I think virtual visits are not going away, and their convenience is going to make them kind of a sticky business practice, and the businesses who embrace them will certainly be rewarded. I have a client who pre-sold 8 high-value LASIK procedures in just a matter of 10 conversations in 2 days last week. And this is true for practices that have dry eye as part of their practice, or practices that are just trying to connect with some of their highest value patients. So that's definitely worth thinking about. And if you think about kind of a virtual information hub, another thing that's worth thinking about is your website. Now, I want to show you something. This is data that shows kind of March is the first month of this crisis, and I want to show you some data about March. These graphs show search volume, and the important part is that what we usually see, that's December on the left-hand side, then it goes to January, then it goes to February, then it goes to March. And what you see is a big dip in March. Usually we kind of see a small dip in February and then a big rebound in March. That's kind of year over year. Now on the left-hand side, we see demand volume for general eye care. On the right-hand side, we see demand volume from eyewear. Now, when I say demand volume, this is actual search volume from the back end of Google. We get this data and we use it to see how people and how things related to these terms in Google are actually being searched. So this is the aggregate search volume around the country for eye care on the left hand and eyewear on the right hand. And you can see that eye care is down about 25% year over year and 25% month over month, and eyewear is down a little bit less. So patients still demand that. But what we're typically seeing, again, is a big spike in March after February, but obviously that didn't happen. And in fact, when we analyzed data across all of our clients' accounts, and this is actually, we took live data from all of our clients across the country in the eye care space, it became obvious that consumers stopped thinking about eye care and started thinking about other things right around March 12th. Now, demand didn't completely fall off the face of the earth. It just dipped tremendously. But what's interesting is that the trends during this time are very similar to other times when consumers are reprioritizing. So if you look at what happens traditionally in holiday weeks, for example, consumers prioritize other things like family, togetherness, something that's more important at that time. And then if you look at what happens following those weeks. So on the left-hand side is the holiday weeks, and then each one of those weeks is kind of progressive surge in demand. It doesn't mean that demand isn't there. What happens is people just choose to reprioritize when they're going to consume key services like eye care. And as you can see here, there's a big spike in surge in demand, surge kind of in deferred demand as consumers start thinking about eye care again after what would be considered a holiday season. And I think this is what we'll expect after this season as well. There are going to be people who raise their hand maybe at an increasing rate as health is more and more important on people's minds, and who start looking for eye care after they're able to reprioritize. So whether the reason is positive or negative, the fact remains that the need is there and people will eventually take action to meet their need. So what do you have to do to be able to meet the demand when people start looking? Well, Google isn't exactly making it easy for us. Let me show you. This is a graph of every algorithm change since the middle of March. And this is, and red and orange are the big changes that Google is making. And you can see that Google was rolling out a ton of changes in the second half of March. Now, many of these changes are designed to help medical providers who are stepping up during a crisis. But the problem is that most people don't actually know how to update their digital properties to meet the requirements that Google is pushing out. So let me show you an example. You see that loan change on April 10th? There's like a big red bar in the second half of the graph on the right. So that's a loan change on April 10th. And this is, I'm going to show you kind of some technical information that we gather from some of our clients that we manage. So if you can see right there, this is a scan of a client's website right before that date. You can see towards the top it says April 7th, 2020. And you can see that on that date, they have 0 errors and 32 warnings, which is a very small amount. And they just needed some content on a few pages, which is no big deal. Now, the errors are penalties from Google, which are actually going to decrease rank. And warnings, they're things that could eventually become errors, but for the most part, they're sometimes opportunities. So the change on April 10th for this particular client, you can take a look and see that the graph on the that the screenshot on the left is April 7th. The screenshot on the right is April 10th when that big algorithm change happened. Well, you can see that all of a sudden they have 68 penalties from Google overnight. And if left unmanaged, they will absolutely tank their rankings. And there are 72 new warnings on their site as well, just from new definitions and performance indicators that just rolled out. This is just one change, guys. And I want to show you this is Oh, by the way, I did put in here that you can see that this is not impossible to clean up. Our team actually cleaned out most of those penalties within 2 days, and you can see by the 12th, all the warnings were down as well. But if you're not paying attention to this stuff, it can really hurt you. This is another example of a website that was hit pretty hard by March updates. Here they are in February. You can see they've got 1 error, 0 warnings, pretty clean bill of health. And then after those changes, you can see on April 2nd, 229 errors, 10,000 warnings, by a whopping 10,000 issues that Google now considers as the new best in class. This is important, guys. So if you're not having your website scanned regularly for issues, this is a good time to do it because it's a low volume time, and you want to be ready for when consumers start looking for eye care again and not tumble in the rankings. Again, when that surge comes of people saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna take care of the needs that I deferred previously," you want to be the person that they find, and you want to be the practice that helps serve that surge. So another thing you can do right now to kind of make sure that all of your supporting directories match your Google My Business. There are about 100 directories, actually exactly 98 directories, and some of them you've heard of, like Apple Maps or Yellow Pages or YP.com or Easy Local. And then there's a bunch on the screen that you haven't heard of. And it's not like there's massive consumer volume coming from these directories, but this is an easy SEO opportunity right now. While everyone is fumbling around with their hours and business information, go ahead and claim and update all 98 directories to be a perfect match with the name, address, phone number. And typically when we do a scan, they're about 30% accurate for a typical business, because Google has one set of data and then directories have another set of data that they scrape from somewhere else. But if you claim all of these directories and your competitors don't, what will happen is Google will prioritize you because your information is more accurate, and as a result, you'll be way more likely to rank in the snack pack and the local packs, especially on mobile when your practice is in full swing. Now, again, this is an important part, and if you need a list of what these directories look like, feel free to contact me afterwards, and we provide a lot of free goodies on our website, which includes a free scan of how you're doing on these directories, as well as an error and warning scan on your website. So again, before you get too busy, here are a few things that you need to do to prepare for when consumer demand is going to increase and when people are going to start looking in your area. You want to make sure that you have a strong SEO cleanup effort. You want to take a look at all the different parts of your website, check your test your page speed. These are all important ranking factors and pretty foundational. The other thing you got to note is that when we reopen, COVID is not really going away. It's not going to, you're not going to stop having a response. So one thing I would recommend is that you need a page that shows that how you're operating differently in today's world. And to be honest, that's one of the key parts, and this is the differentiating content that you might want to be able to provide. And this is where transparency is really important. It's kind of you're setting the standard of safety for your COVID-19, and you're building a relationship with your prospective patients. So what do you want to include on there? I'll show you in just a second. You also want to showcase authentic content on social media. You want to maybe show off some of the changes that you're making in your office to showcase to patients how you're making things safer. Maybe there are questions like, for example, do I really need to be seen right now? You can flip that as a positive and say, you can be seen by a provider that's making it safe to for you to get your eye care needs met. And the other thing I would recommend, and I know that this is a great opportunity for low volume time, when doctors aren't seeing patients, whether it's the doctor owners of the practice or employee doctors in the practice, one of the things they can do during their low volume time is record a few small video bios of themselves, why they got into eye care, what are some of the things that they love about serving patients. Putting those videos on your website and on their social media really helps create a bond and build a relationship in a way that some corporate big boxes can't, where you as a doctor can connect potentially to your existing patients during a time where people want to feel more connected and they're accepting digital forms to be that kind of connection. And you can also use this to attract future patients. So what does a landing page potentially need to have on it? Well, this is a sample of something that we put together, and this doesn't have real content on it, just as an example of, here's how we're serving the community. We're a local business. We believe that we have a commitment and a responsibility to the community. Here's the overall importance of your eye health. And by the way, here's some hours in our locations. Here's how we're keeping you safe. This is the extra protective equipment that we're using. This is how we're eliminating waiting, and social distancing. And, here are some of the disinfecting procedures that we have. And then, of course, if you have online options, telemedicine, buying contacts online, those are all great opportunities to showcase there, as well as telling patients what to expect if they come in for an appointment. So this is your COVID landing page. And again, since COVID's not going away, you're not going to stop having a response even after you reopen or kind of back at full swing. Now, another example is, posting just general content on social media. So, for example, something that's relevant and engaging. Are your kids spending too much time on technology? Well, you could provide helpful information about that. And at the same time, on the left-hand side, you see a post that generated 25 comments in just a few minutes. Some people see pink and white. Some people see teal and gray. Show it to a friend, see what they think. My household's divided, and my employees are divided as well. But this is stuff you could be posting on social media to garner engagement, in addition to some of the authentic content I'm talking about that helps patients understand how you're operating, how you're keeping them safe, etc. Other things that, for low volume to consider, this is a great time to strengthen your virtual revenue streams. If you can offer subscriptions with, potential products that you sell, if you can offer patients an opportunity to buy contact lenses online or to call you for contact lens purchases or renewals. Um, it's also a great time again to do some top of funnel concepts. What I mean by consults, what I mean by top of funnel consults is that something that's like a virtual Q&A that you could be pre-programming patients and give them a low barrier. You're sitting at home. If you've ever wondered about your dry eye, just here's a dry eye consult. And you could do something like LASIK, dry eye, other treatments where it's worth the time to consult a patient and to keep them from going somewhere else. Because honestly, if they don't buy from you, they might be doing something dangerous. They might be stretching an old pair of contact lenses. They might be having low quality supplements. Just make sure that your messaging is not tone deaf and that you're trying to create convenient ways to get people access to essential items without having to kind of violate social norms or government orders or whatnot. So, the byproduct, of course, is revenue. Another thing you should be actively considering is to make sure that your next batch of marketing is fully tracked. If you're going to invite patients to do something after you reopen, in my opinion, you should know how well that message and the distribution channel by overall approach is serving you. It's the only way you're going to be able to do that is by having tracking numbers installed, conversion tracking set up on all of your website areas, and creating custom campaign URLs to help determine where your intent is coming from. So for example, when we sent out a few emails for one of our clients at the beginning of I want to say it was in the beginning of April, we learned that those emails generated 520 calls. And you can see here that those emails actually got tracked by the day and we can listen to those calls, and we know which emails generated which calls. We know how much revenue those emails also generated. So we know the marketing activity that we did, and we know what that marketing activity how that marketing activity performed for us. And you can do this kind of on an ongoing basis as well. This is for another client, we set up a system called DNI, dynamic number insertion. Basically, their whole website is a series of rotating tracking phone numbers that we can discern exactly where the interest is coming from. For example, you can see that a big driver of traffic for them is Google Organic. Another driver of traffic for them is their direct traffic, people who just look up their website. But we know it, and we know what kind of business it's actually bringing. So one thing I want to stress in summary, when you have low volume times, whether it's before you've reopened or after you've reopened and you're just seeing a lower number of patients, or you're keeping kind of a lower number of appointments to keep patients safe, these are all activities that can help keep your audiences engaged and your business ready to help scale. This is a good time to invest your time in activities that will have good ROI in the future for your business. But for now, let's think for a few minutes about what you should be considering when you're planning reopening campaign. And these are things that we're going to cover in future videos. In reality, we're going to tell you the types of messages that are resonating right now with consumers, how to communicate to consumers about their health, how to communicate to consumers about money, for example, how to communicate with consumers about things like scarcity. And these are all messaging techniques that we're going to share with you. We're also going to share with you in future videos a little bit more about how what kind of patients you should be targeting, what kind of techniques you should be using for that. But in all in all, hopefully you found this video helpful. I wanted to keep the video series with videos kind of under 25 minutes. I think this one's at about 21. And so in the future video, I'll give you a separate section of the blueprint that helps you communicate specifically to your patients and helps you craft well-tuned messages that are going to help you come out of this thing stronger. So again, my name is Eugene. You can contact me with the information on the screen. Those are a few members of my team who help kind of put together some of this messaging. And certainly we're always researching and looking for interesting data that we can share with our clients and with our industries that we serve. Again, in future videos, we'll help you cover how we can use some of that data to help your practice grow. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Always happy to be a resource.